pace yourself. This is about strategy by wall. Is everybody here familiar with strategy by wall, where you play the game in a phased approach, where your tactics are the tactics that you use would be based on the wall in play? Does everybody use that strategy by wall? It's a strategy with tactics based on the wall in play. So begin game tactics are different than middle game tactics. End game tactics are different than middle game tactics. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about here, because in real life, it's different. You've got to learn how to identify the wall in play. You got to identify where you are in the game. And when East rolls the dice, the wall is broken. So it's challenging to figure out where you are in the wall. So that's what we're going to talk about. I adjust strategy by wall to be more reactive to opponents' exposures. Yes. Hi, Kathleen. Welcome. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about. And I'm looking for your input on this. It's challenging because everybody's mind works differently, but here's how I do it. So when you're looking at a bird's eye view of the table, you see all the tiles, 4 walls. When East rolls the dice, and you can see the dice are rolled in here. I can't see the number. Let me see here. We have a 5. And what is that number there? Oh, it's either a 2 or a 5. So the idea with this is that when East rolls the dice, they break the wall. So here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so you see this blue line? These tiles are all going to be dealt to the people's hand. So that first wall is going away with the deal. So then we have the begin game, which is the first 5 picks. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6 blocks of 4 tiles. That would be the begin game. Okay, the begin game. Then the green lines, those are for the middle game. And then we have the end game, which are the red lines. Okay, so begin, the deal is blue, the begin game is yellow, the middle game is green, and the end game is red. So when you're looking at the tiles, that's how you're going to visualize the wall in play. So when, after the Charleston, or really after the deal, that first blue area, those tiles all go away and they're in everybody's hand at that point. So you're going to count off 5 or 6 blocks for the begin game. Okay, the yellow line is the begin game. Okay, so you're going to count off about 5 or 6 picks for the begin game. Then what you're going to do is you're going to visualize the space where the tiles were dealt from East wall, and then you're going to block off that same visual space on from the third wall in order to estimate the end game. So it's going to be the same visual length of the tiles that are missing in front of East. And you're going to kind of flip it around to the south wall so that you have a full wall kind of blocked out in your mind, because that is the end game. And then the space in the middle is the middle game. And this is about 40 tiles. about 10 picks each, depending, because sometimes players will claim a discard and turns get skipped. So it's about 10 picks each, or 40 stacks of tiles, 40 tiles, blocks of 4. Okay, so does this make sense? The blue is what was dealt. The yellow is the begin game. The green is the middle game. And the red is the end game. Identifying the begin game is easy because it's basically 5 or 6 picks from the wall. Makes sense, says Jay. Okay. The challenging part is visualizing using the space in front of East's wall, flipping it to South's wall with about that same space in order to determine the length of the end game. That's the challenging part. But once you identify the begin game and the end game, then just by process of elimination, you can see where the middle game is. And once tiles are discarded, you can use tiles to kind of give kind of a marker. Use the tiles as kind of a marker to remind yourself of where the begin game ends, middle game begins, middle game ends, begin or end game begins, that type of a thing. So we're going to talk through all that as we go. And I have some examples now. So it's all about visualization. You're going to use a little bit of geometry, I suppose you could say. So let's look at some examples. Here's game 1. The blue was dealt. We're in the begin game now, right now. So you can see there are tiles that have been discarded. The yellow is where the begin game was marked off. So we have one more pick going into the middle game. So we're right about in the middle game. And this is all estimate, okay? It's not meant to be exact. So when you're at 80 tiles, that's the beginning of the middle game. So you can see the green line for the middle game. So over where this 4 dot is, that's where that's about where the end game is going to begin. So while we're playing the game, I would keep my eye on the progress of the wall and then remember where that end game begins, because that's where push-pull judgment comes in. So by the end, just kind of going back to the begin game, by when the first or the second wall is gone, the yellow line, the begin game, when that wall is gone, this is when you want to make sure you know what category you're playing. So for the hand that you see here, we're playing consecutive run. We even have an exposure and a hand with no gaps. This is consecutive run number 6-1, 7-1, 1, 2, 3, 8. Wait, 1, 2, 3, 6, 7. 7-1, 1 suit, pung, 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 pung. So we know what hand we're playing even. So we're ahead of the game right now. We're in a really good shape here. So next, we're going to be in the middle game. So you keep your eye again on the wall in play and keep your eye on the milestones that I believe I shared these milestones just on Monday on Speed to Ready. So I'll put a link for that video in the description. And I also did a gig, a virtual workshop with Mahjong Maven on the power of position, and it included a bonus. So I'll include that as well in the video description for you. So at 70 tiles remaining, this is what I think of as the switch sweet spot. In this case, we don't need to switch our hand. We're good. We're one away from ready. So if I were playing a pair hand or a quint and it wasn't going as planned, then I would consider switching at about this point. Any switching that happens after this is going to be late in the game, and it would be a long shot to win if you made a switch after this point, because you've got to give yourself time. So this is the sweet spot for switching. The next milestone is also in the middle game, and this is at 60 tiles remaining. This is the midpoint of the game, the whole game, midpoint, 60 tiles remaining. This is also the sweet spot for joker bait, and it is the best time to pick a hand if you haven't already done so, because you need to start digging into one hand. You don't want to vacillate, because you're only going to delay that inevitable choice, and by doing that, you're going to miss opportunities. So if you haven't already, pick a hand by this point. Then the next milestone would be risk assessment, and that is at 40 tiles remaining. That is the beginning of the end game. So that's where the red lines come in. So that is what was marked off. If you look at the blank space in east wall across from us, that length is about the same length as what is marked off on the left. That is the last wall, the end game. So this is when you would want to do a risk assessment. So in this case, with this hand, we're ready to win. We have a 9 bam here, but it looks like 2 9 bams were already discarded. So I would discard, not with no hesitation here. I'd still play to win, but I would take it pick by pick. So this is when you would do that risk assessment though. Push fold judgment right here. Okay, any questions? I believe that this is the last slide. Push fold judgment is just a pick or two in to the end game. Maybe 2 picks in, that's when you're going to do a push fold judgment, decide whether you're going to play to win or fold. And you should actually do that with every pick and discard from this point forward, because you never know what you're going to draw. And also in this particular case, it's going to be challenging because we have only one other player who has exposures. The other 2 players have no exposures. So it's going to be very difficult to determine the risk associated to discards. The only variables we could use are the tiles that are visible. All right, so now, any questions so far about this? Is this visual helping you? Because when you play in person, you don't get the counter of the remaining tiles. You would combine this framework with your power of position and make a soft rule not to upgrade my position to front runner after that push fold judgment point. Don't upgrade. I don't think I've ever talked about upgrading a position in the end game. It's really more about risk assessment. Risk assessment and push fold judgment. This is helpful. Okay, so the whole idea with this visual is to train your eye how to block out the wall in play in person. That's what this is for. And yes, my intent is to add this to any presentation where there's strategy by wall, because I keep getting people asking me, how do I do this in person? Online, you get the counters where it says 29 tiles remaining. But when you play in person, you don't have that benefit. So you've got to train your eye to do that blocking and that counting. You got to train your eye to do it. So in this particular point in time in this game, I would count blocks of 4. So I would say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 picks left. So I would count blocks of 4 to tell myself how many picks are left. You count blocks of 4 because that's going to tell you how many picks you have left. Now, when you play online, you just divide that number that you see by 4. So that's how you do it online. But in person, you can't do that. You have to count it out. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 picks. 7 picks left. Okay, so let's look at another example. So here we go. We have, here's the way that the dice were rolled. The blue is going to be the deal. So all those tiles are going to go away with the deal. And then the yellow is going to be the begin game. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blocks of 4 mapped out. So that's going to be the begin game. So then the end game, so you block out 5 or 6 picks from the begin game, and then you look at the tiles that are going to be gone after dealing, and you flip it to the other side. You kind of just take that space and you flip it to the wall on east right. So that would be south wall. And that will help you identify the end game. So right around where this blue line is here, see my mouse here? This blue line, the game is going to begin right here. So between the yellow and the red, that is going to be the middle game. So the 5 tiles on south wall closest to us, that's the end of the middle game. So you want to use these methods in your head when you're playing in person to help you pace yourself. So here we go. At the end of the Charleston, you're going to do a position assessment. You're going to look at your hand and you're going to assess where the level of transformation that you were able to make during the Charleston. So in this case, we're probably playing pair of flowers, pair 9, pair 7, 7, 8, 9, 1 suit Kongs, third hand down on the left. So if we're playing 7, 8, 9, pair of flowers, we have the 2 bam, the 5 bam, 2 Kraken north are discards. That's 4 discards. So I would say this player is going to be a contender for this game. So assess your position right here. Then after the begin game is gone, when 80 tiles are remaining, that's where you're going to make sure you know what category you're playing. We claimed a discard with the 7, so we're digging in already. We know what hand we're playing. We have no gaps. There are definitely weaknesses, but we can use jokers because we do have our pair. So I would say with this situation right now, we have 5 discards. So I'd say we're probably an underdog. Now, why did it change so much? 7, 8, 9. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, we have an extra tile we just picked. So it's the same. It's correct. So once we discard, we'll be back down to 4 discards. So I'd say we're still a contender with 80 tiles remaining. Okay, so now at 60 tiles remaining, this is when you have that joker bait sweet spot. In this case, we don't have any joker bait, but you want to make sure you know what hand you're playing by this point in the game. And we have not made any more movement. We have not gotten a keeper. So you might even consider yourself on the back end of the contender group because we need keepers in here. So we're now we're at the beginning of the end game now. And we actually have a pair we don't need, the 5 bam. But based on what is out, I don't think that's going to be good joker bait. And this is where you want to assess the risk of your discards and also your potential to win. So by looking at what is out, there's an 8 bam underneath this flag. 3 8 bams are out. So I would say, are any 9 bams out? And does anybody need a 9 bam? We don't know what the player on the right is doing yet. I do see a 9 crack here, 9 dot here. I'm thinking the 9 bam we might be able to make, but it's going to be probably slim to none for this player to win because the 8s are out. They're going to need at least they're going to need 3 jokers. The chances for this player to get 3 jokers when we have 1, 2, 3, 4 jokers visible, slim to none. So this player is probably going to be an underdog, even though they have a hand with no gaps. The 8 bam is out. So we're now going into the end game. You can see the red line here. This is where you want to decide if you're going to push to fold or push to win or fold. In this case, we did get the 9 bam, but now we're going to need 3 jokers for that 8 bam because they are out. So that's slim to none. That is going to be slim to none. And incidentally here, 8 crack, that joker is available. 6 bam. It looks like 3 of these jokers are available for exchange, and actually so is the red dragon. So there is some chance for this player to win. Okay, so that's what you want to do when you're playing the game. You want to try to figure out what your potential is. And in this case, we got 2 joker exchanges. So now we only need 1 joker. So even though there was a slim chance for this player, they were able to do joker exchanges. So I would say they're back in the running at this point. They need now 1 joker to win, and 2 jokers are open to buy. So I would say play to win here. So when you draw a risky tile, in the end game, we're in the end game, push fold judgment. We're ready to win, but we need a joker. What are the chances of us getting a joker with 1, 2, 3, 4 picks left? I'd say slim to none. This red or this green dragon is a potential winning tile for the player on our right. I would fold. I would discard a joker, because the chances of us getting one of those joker tiles here, slim to none. There are 4 jokers visible. I would say one of these other players probably have jokers. So I would say it is slim to none for this player to win. So I would fold. Okay, any questions? Are you finding this helpful? Okay, we're going to look at another one. Game 3. This is the last one. And the reason there are 3 in here is because when East rolls that dice, the break in the wall changes. So you need to train yourself to do that estimation. So look at this break right here. The blue, all that went away with the deal. So you're going to count off 5 or 6 picks. I think it's 6. I need to update that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 picks. So the yellow is the begin game. The green is the middle game. And then the red is the end game. You see that big blank space in front of, I guess it would be right here, this space in front of East wall. All that space right there, you flip it to determine how far out to go. Or another thing you could do is count how many are remaining. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and count off 6 to the right of the wall in front of us here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you basically either use this visual of the space that is open and block it out for that length, the same length, or you deduct what is left right here from the wall on the right. So those are two different ways you could do it. Usually what I do, well, I do both. It just depends on where my mind is for the day. But more times than not, I count off the remaining tiles from the full wall in front of the player to my right if I'm east. So you just basically use spatial estimate. You use space to estimate the length of a wall, which is 40 tiles. So do you see this red line here? That's about the same length right here. You see my mouse moving? This length is the same as this length. Therefore, this is the full length of the wall. The other way you could do it is this space is the same width as this space. So you basically just use this and flip it down to visually give you the length of a wall. We're going to do a position assessment. We have 2 multiples, 3 crack, 5 crack. I would probably play little odds 1, 3, 3, 5 second hand down on the left, leveraging the pairs. So that would mean we have 6 discards. We don't need the flower. We could also play like numbers with 3s, but we would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 discards. Now, 5 discards, we're an underdog here. We would be an underdog on this one. Okay, so then, oh, I need to clean that up. I moved the text. I had it on the table at one time, but I moved it up. So after you get through the begin game, the yellow lines there, that's when you want to pick a category. We know what category we're in. We're playing little odds. And you could see now we have a discard with joker bait. I would say we could bump up to front runner here because we've got a hand of least resistance, 3 multiples, and 2 jokers. We have joker bait that maybe we can use at around the middle of the game, which is going to be right around here. Okay, so pick a category by the end of the begin game. Going into the middle game, this is where you want to make sure you know what category you're playing at a minimum. Then when you get to about 70 tiles remaining, just a couple of picks into the middle game, that's when you want to switch your hand if you have to. Joker bait sweet spot. Oh, okay, my estimate was a little bit off. 60 tiles remaining. That's when you want to discard joker bait, and we did, but nobody took it. So that was a dud. You also want to make sure you know what hand you're playing at this point if you're going to pace yourself for a win by the end of the third wall. We have 1 discard before the end of the third wall here. I'd say we have a really good chance of hitting that milestone. We won. So yeah, we did it. And we did it. We just had another good pick, and we were ready. We won before the end of the middle game in this case. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, consider subscribing. Click the little gray bell if you do. That way you'll get notification for when I post new videos, and you won't miss an opportunity to learn a new strategy or pick up an insight to the game that could give you an advantage at the table. Between now and the next video, may all your picks be keepers.